Hello and welcome to Movie Film Studios, the only podcast that takes you inside the mind of two film studio executives as we unravel and then re-ravel the best that Hollywood has to offer. I'm Isaac.
And I'm AJ, and in this, our holiday-themed episode, we sat down in the Movie Film Studios Memorial Theatre and watched the 1996 American comedy action film Jingle All the Way. Ho, ho, ho. But before we go on with everything in this episode today, we have some news from last week. Last week we discussed that we were looking at purchasing a few small studios to try and build up a collection, to become more prominent in the movie making world.
Obviously, Disney put it. It ended up being $52.6 billion. I think the acquisition of Fox,
and pending regulatory oversight, that deal looks like it's going through. So we're pleased to announce that we've actually made our own deal and acquired a studio in the week prior.
I mean, these deals move quick. You got to move quick in this industry.
So I'd like to introduce the latest movie executive to join our team, Kieran.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm a representative of what used to be known as Motion Picture Inc. Recently acquired by you boys in the.
That's right. It was a very hush deal.
Yeah, and it was also $52.6. So it was a pretty cheap deal, but I think that you've made a really good choice with MPI. Yeah. We're going to bring a whole lot of stuff to you guys.
Now, what films were you responsible for? Was your studio responsible for?
So you might have heard of the Puppums.
That's ours. Yep. Our intellectual property, the Puppums.
Right. Well, we had our own.
The Puppet. So you're the Puppet guy.
We are the Puppets.
That's right. Because we did discuss buying them out.
We did.
Now, did you settle that lawsuit with Jim
Look,
Henson?
it's ongoing. Ongoing.
But I think we, as part of the acquisition, like our legal team's now on it.
Great.
It's much easier that we've cut out that middle link of the chain. Yep. We can just go sort of directly deal with that.
That's one of the main things when we considered. I mean, and I considered really because MPI, it's just me. But look, I looked at the size of your legal department, and you've got 50 floors of it. So I thought this could really help.
49 floors.
Well, yeah. So I thought,
and the sub basements,
and some basements.
Yeah, all 18 of them. And look, this is what really drew me to this deal, along with me having to pay rent. So look, there was a number of factors, but I'm totally on board with Movie Film Studios.
Great.
I'm ready for this.
We are so glad to have you aboard. I hope that our relationship is fruitful and ongoing.
I'm sure I'll be here every week.
Absolutely. Great.
All right, so with introductions out of the way, I suppose it's time for our box office report.
Yes, indeed. Now, our film last week that we released was a film called Nile.
And then Nile. Sure.
We made a special character to describe the combination of the word Nile and nine.
I have to say, it was not at all confusing.
No.
In English. Now, the biggest trouble that we had is that in other languages, the letter 9 is spelt differently, and not always the same way as it's spelt as the word in that language for the Nile River.
Yep.
Actually created quite a lot of controversy because they're like, oh, you're not racist, but just sort of like languageist, especially like in Mandarin and sort of those languages which use characters, adding extra lines and strokes and stuff in there completely changes the meaning of the entire word and not just the letter. Good thing is that all the controversy sparked up like publicity, and we made a lot of money on that film, enough to obviously acquire a new studio.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the subject matter of the film, not so popular in Egypt itself. Did not do well there, but that was like the one country out of the 148 that were released
also,
that doesn't turn a profit.
We kind of whitewashed the cast as well.
We did, but we explained that away. They were a European travelling circus going through Egypt, and that's why they were all young, attrective white females.
Did you happen to see the film, Kieran? Did you enjoy it?
Look, I was in Egypt at the time, and there was a riot on. I figured that was what was going on.
Okay.
It was. I would just say that MPI, we're very cognizant of whitewashing casts, and we try very hard to get a very varied set of actors and actresses. So let's try and do that moving forward, shall we?
Yes, let's.
Absolutely.
On another note, it's time for This Week in Trailers.
This Week in Trailers.
So what did we watch this week, folks?
A fantastic-looking Liam Neeson vehicle, and I use the term vehicle very correctly. It's the Commuter, I believe it was called.
Yes, indeed.
Which is from the trailer just Flight Plan, which was another Liam Neeson vehicle,
Yeah.
on a different vehicle, a jet plane that time. Only this time it's on a train.
Yeah.
He's some sort of action hero man who's been put on a train and told that he has to achieve some sort of action hero plot quests. Otherwise, his family will get murdered, and there's a bunch of people on there. Some of them are traitors and some of them are not, and he has to kick their ass.
Is his family getting murdered in this one?
Yeah, in this one, definitely.
Didn't you see there was like a cutaway shot to his wife, presumably?
Yeah, they had
okay.
the wedding rings. She was holding up her wedding ring. He had his wedding ring.
What I really like about it is that Liam Neeson is really... He's looked at the market, right? And he's seen, like, Hugh Grant... He's got his thing, right? He's always like bumbling fool in love. And then, you know, you've got Matt Damon always being saved, right? That's his thing. Liam Neeson, his whole career will henceforth just be a man, just an ordinary man with a set of ordinary skills, extraordinary skills. What again? I'm on in this vehicle. Oh, dear.
But this is just like 2000 Liam Neeson to 2020 Liam Neeson. Because before that, he was doing Rob Roy. He was doing Schindler's List. He was doing some really sort of great films of many different genres.
Yeah, how do you think he got his extraordinary skills?
To be fair,
it was smuggling, people in Berlin.
To be fair, that whole ordinary man with an extraordinary set of skills, I mean, Schindler's List does fit that description quite well, so I think he's just been doing it for his entire career.
Yeah, but now he's got the opportunity, like, now it's 2017, right? He would just be him on a spaceship, and then what's that? There's, you've got to go find this specific person, and oh dear.
So you say spaceship, he's almost taken on the Harrison Ford night of the 90s.
Yeah,
It's like, I just want my family, or get off my plane.
Has he played president yet? Has he?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's something to consider.
I know you guys already have a contract in place, but like it's a consideration, right?
I mean, all we have to do is President Andy Garcia is the president of the United States. If we do a prime minister of the United States, it doesn't have to be Andy Garcia.
That's right.
We just set it in another country.
Yeah.
Then it's all good. We can actually maybe put it in Ireland, and he can just use his real accent.
God forbid.
So what was the second trailer this week?
The second trailer was Steven Spielberg's latest, Ready Player One, based on, I'm assuming, a very popular book of the same name.
Yeah, by Ernest Cline.
Yeah.
It was sort of somewhat went viral as a book, like one of these ones that everyone sort of recommended to everyone else, and it became very, very popular. I did read it. I kind of think it's a really awful book in terms of the story's bad, the morals are quite bad, the idea behind it sort of somewhat good, but just not realized to its fullest extent, and it just sort of becomes very I wanted to use the word masturbatory. I'm not sure if we're allowed to say this on the film, but in terms of just, it's like the 80s was the greatest. Nothing has been good since the 80s. The video games are great. The TV shows are great. 80s, 80s, 80s. And it's just pop culture reference after pop culture reference, and it just sort of becomes a little bit tired. Having said that, the trailer for the film actually looks pretty good.
It looks really good. It's, from what I can see, and I have not read the book, so I can't really comment on how accurate the trailer is in regards to the story, but it's set in the future, about 2050 or so.
Sure.
And a virtual online world has been created that people can step into from in a virtual reality sense.
Called the Oasis?
Called the Oasis, yep. Run by some old megalomaniac kind of...
It's more like your Steve Jobs type character, the enigmatic tech billionaire who's created this resource, and... I believe, it's somewhat sort of free to use at the moment, but his post-death has said that anyone who finds this egg that I've hidden inside this multitude of virtual worlds can sort of overcreate this thing, obviously, and then inherit, I think he said, $500 billion worth of fortune.
Yep.
So not only control the world's greatest resource, but also take over this money. And people have gone, well, these big corporations jump in and go, we now want this. This is a massive resource. And then you have these just like, and then again, the protagonist is just this kid who idolizes the 80s and idolizes this world and just goes, well, I'm just doing it for fun. And he's up against people who are doing it much more seriously.
This is the problem. Back in my day, it was just a golden ticket and you took over the chocolate factory. But now you got to compete against everyone else and King Kong as well.
It is
Right.
essentially Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Charlie and the Chocolate
That's
Factory
right.
mixed with Rat Race.
Yeah, and it's just 80s stuff. So I think the music of Rush, who was in the Jump? Who's that?
Jump was in there
Van Halen, I
by
think.
Van Halen.
Yeah.
There was a DeLorean, the actual DeLorean from Back to the Future 2. It's all kitted up in the time travel.
Yeah, see, this is what Ernest Cline was able to do in the book, is just say, oh, and then the Iron Giant from Iron Giant shows up, and Megatron's there, and also all of the dinosaurs and Voltron show up, and he's able to do that because it's like they're just words on a piece of paper. But when you do it on a film, someone owns all of that intellectual property to actually sort of clear it all and put it in the one film is incredibly difficult to do. And Spielberg really is the only person who could have, because he owns the 80s.
He's the executive producer of all these films, so I mean, it's not like it's going to be that hard for him to get the rights to it. Do you think Cretaceon is going to feature in there now as well, considering he stole it from us?
It's, maybe like I'm not sure on the Jurassic Park things in here as well. Who knows?
Probably.
Just at some point, someone references Nazi dinosaurs, and he's like, "That's enough. That's enough." I can't wait for Ready Player 2 in the year 2047 when they go back in like, 2017 was the bloody best of all time, and it's just J.J. Abrams and his old age has come back.
True.
And it's just
J.J.
like
Abrams,
where
Spielberg
Super 8,
owns
all
the
that
80s,
stuff. Yeah,
Abrams owns the noughties and all the IP from that. So
We can have it.
are
Oh, man.
you guys gonna go watch it? Ready Player 1?
Oh, of course we will.
eventually, like I think you mentioned last week when we talked about the Lost World, Fall of the Ryzen Kingdom. Well, I can't remember what
Crystal
that's
Skull. Yeah.
that you won't spend money at the cinema, but we'll end up buying the Blu-ray, and that's probably what will happen with Ready Player One.
I think so,
We'll wait for the Blu-ray release. It's no Jumanji. It's no Jumanji. Welcome to the Jungle,
No.
which we will
Private screening for that
do the
one.
private screening at the cinema, and that's when we can't wait for the Blu-ray
right,
release.
yeah.
That 3 months is. I mean,
How
since
can you
we
wait
saw
for
the
Jack Black? Come on.
It's been agony since the trailer came out.
Jack
6
Black,
months of.
What about Dwayne The Rock Johnson?
You mean Dwayne
Johnson?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Is he credited as The Rock in this one or not? Because it depends on the film that he's doing.
Is he moving away from that?
I don't know. It seems to sort of seesaw between, depending on what film he's doing. If he wants to feel more serious, I think in the that Rampage film that we discussed a couple of weeks ago, he was Dwayne Johnson. In this one, I think he is Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
For a man that has single-handedly reinvigorated the name Dwayne, I think he can do what he wants with his own name.
This is true. Speaking of actors that reinvigorate their career, Jingle All the Way, starring the precursor to Dwayne The Rock Johnson and John Cena,
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
You know, the bodybuilder come actor slash performer slash all-round dude
Definitely
extraordinaire.
made his way to stardom through a physical muscle making career that was not acting, through obviously Mr. Universe and all those sort of films, and then this is sort of a weird arc in his career because he did all the action movies of the 80s and then a few sort of things in the mid 90s. I think Twins and Junior and a few it's just like, well, who's
Kindergarten Cop
taking a step into comedy? Wow.
Yeah, I see this as Christmas Kindergarten Cop. Like, we've tried him against adult comedians. What about kids? Does that work?
All right, before we get too in-depth with our discussion of Jingle All the Way, I think it's worthwhile doing our little 2-minute recap.
I will actually try and go 2 minutes this time because the story is not complicated at all. It's almost 3 sentences. Let's see if I can.
See if you can fit in the plot of Turbo Man in there as well.
All right, okay.
Okay, 2 minutes on the clock, and your time starts now.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is a bad dad. He forgets to get his son a toy for Christmas. The toy is incredibly popular and sold out. He journeys through Minneapolis for 90 minutes looking for it. Can't find it. Eventually lucks his way into being dressed up as Turbo Man for a parade and rescues his son from Sinbad, who up until this point has been sort of like the comic relief offsider for Arnold Schwarzenegger, also trying to get a toy for his son. And then his son says, I don't need the toy because my dad's Turbo Man, because he was dressed up as Turbo Man for a parade. And that's the story.
Beautiful. And completely accurate as well.
What about Turbo Man? What happens in Turbo Man? Because I want to hear about Booster. Tell me about that Booster.
So the whole concept of Turbo Man is that it's based on a very popular kids' TV show, very much in the similar vein of Power Rangers, I guess.
It looks like they're shooting in the same desert that all the fight scenes in Power Rangers
There are
shot
even
in.
like 5 evil dudes who are dressed up in different coloured armored suits, very Power Ranger-esque.
Absolutely. So Turbo Man is sort of like an Iron Man looking style character who has a jetpack and shoots out little discs and has a boomerang.
Batarang or whatever they call it.
Yeah. Power bang? No.
Sure. The power bang.
I think it's called the Intero Bang.
Just Google power bang and see if that's right, AJ.
He has a sidekick called Booster, which from what we can see is a very, very bright pink saber-toothed tiger bear.
Yep. With a hunchback as well.
And his arch nemesis called Dementor.
Dementor, yeah.
Who's, again, your classic sort of...
Looks like Sinestro, I think.
Yeah, he's got a brain that shoots out the top of his helmet. It's filled with liquid water. It's like, I'm super smart. You can see my brain is exposed.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's deliberately... a pastiche of all those sort of like action hero-y stuff from the 90s. And to be fair, they actually do that quite well. Like, you look at it and go, oh, this is like someone's come along and stolen ideas from lots of different things and cobbled it together into an action hero thing, which kind of somehow works.
And I appreciate that we've spent more time talking about Turbo Man than the actual plot of the film.
See, what I'm quite surprised is that this film, whilst Sinbad in this film goes on this great big tirade about commercialism and the way that advertising brainwashes kids to want toys, and then the kids feel let down if the parents can't buy the toys for them, and it's a whole sort of the capitalist and commercialist society is sort of out to get you. I'm really surprised. I don't remember the Turbo Man action figure actually being an action figure that was available in 1996.
They did sell. I was reading about this. They because they rushed the film into production, the only bit of merchandise they could make was the Turbo Man doll, and they only sort of manufactured it for the US. And while we were watching the film, actually, I just jumped onto eBay to see if I could actually find one, and there are none available.
Yeah, there you go. Because I mean, I think we've talked about in the past how the Power Rangers toys are actually quite expensive and quite difficult to get your hands on. But like, if you look at Toy Story, right, that Buzz Lightyear character within the film is designed to be the perfect toy that you want.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think as an adult with money, I've actually gone out and bought one, and it's exactly what I wanted. It's got the retractable wings, it has the buttons, it has the blinking laser, it has you press a button with the 15 individual voice modules, it has the retractable helmet, it has everything that you want, and this is the sort of thing that is Turbo Man in the story, right? They go, he's got the discs that throw. He has the 5 programmed voices
and a boomerang,
and you really would have thought they'd probably try and get the toy out there to tie in with it.
But it's a weird one because this film is not necessarily a kids' film. I think it's billed as a sort of family adventure, but a lot of it is meant to be a bit of a satire on consumerism, and
I think the film could do a really great job. Like, most of it, it's like poking fun at, like, bad parenting and commercialism, and the Christmas season, how crazy. And it feels like at any point Arnold Schwarzenegger could turn to the camera and be like, "This is what's the problem with everything," but it doesn't. It swoops up like Turbo Man, like shooting through the skyline of Minneapolis, which does not have that many skyscrapers, and it manages to have an ending. At which point we have to ask the question, what's the moral? Because the whole thing is vapid as hell. I'm sorry, I'm just new to this, but God.
No, that's fine. Because, look, Arnie spends most of the film devising out multiple schemes to try and get this doll, and it borders on stuff like basic property damage, stealing
from a child, no less.
Stealing from a child,
impersonating an officer, speeding, assault,
mail fraud,
and that's MAIL fraud.
And also just trying to spend, like, just throwing money at the problem as well. So, and
he spends at least $400 on this, including his car.
More than that, I think.
Well, yeah, he loses a car, he smashes a window, animal abuse as well. He feeds beer to a reindeer at one point.
He punches the reindeer square in the face.
Yep. Sorry, that would be probably worse than feeding it beer.
Well, we're hoping that the deer was animatronic as well. I don't think he actually
or just very well trained. It could be the best acting in the entire film.
That's what they used to do for horses. There's a scene in Blazing Saddles where a guy punches a real horse, but the horse was just trained to fall over on command. So the actor sort of goes to punch the horse, and the horse falls over. And it looks great because they add in the comical sound effect as well, but it was just a trained horse.
50% of the budget went to Turbo Man flying shots. 50% went to training a reindeer.
Well, hang on. No. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger, so you know that 80% of the film went to his salary.
I mean, of the remaining budget, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The other thing we should mention as well is young Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah,
Jake Lloyd.
Jake Lloyd. In his, I think this was like... He only did 3 films.
Yeah, so this is 3 years before the release of Phantom Menace, so we assume that he's 3 years younger or thereabouts, depending on how long they took to shoot Star Wars. He's pretty good in this film, to be honest. He does... his acting's probably as good as it was in the Phantom Menace, but with somewhat better dialogue. That's weird to say for Jingle All the Way. But, like, I mean, he's supposed to be 3 years younger, so you can kind of excuse his slightly kiddie-ish acting. He has a couple of jokes where he's trying to impersonate his dad, and he actually does, like, a pretty decent impersonation, so...
He does the joke where he repeats back the ad on TV and even says parts being required or whatever.
Batteries not included.
That's it, yeah. I feel like he's had a lot of daddy issue movies, right? Like No Dad in Star Wars, Absent Dad in Jingle All the Way, and then look how he ended up. I'm not saying that there's a link,
is there a
but
correlation?
Come on.
No, okay. I wanted to also mention that with Arnie's arc in this, he doesn't learn anything, and he lucks into every single situation. So at the end of it, like, his family comes together and everything's well and this and that, but he hasn't really worked for it. Like,
no.
The big climactic scene at the end is him stumbling into some area where they're doing behind this, like, there's a parade going on, right? A big Christmas parade. And he stumbles into this backstage area where the crew there mistake him for the stunt guy that's going to be playing Turbo Man. They start dressing him up, and he has no say in the matter. And then he eventually gets out onto the parade dressed up as Turbo Man. But it's all luck. He doesn't.
It is.
He's not actually doing anything on purpose. He's just like, oh, what am I doing? Oh, no, this thing is happening. I guess I'm gonna have to go with it.
I think it's probably worth describing the actual sort of not penultimate, but the culmination of that sort of sequence. Where the filmmakers just decide to break their own reality. Up until now, it's sort of supposed to be sort of somewhat a commentary on commercialism. You have that sort of, Black Friday, people stampeding into the toy store. He's going from toy store to toy store trying to find it, can't find it, tries to get a black market toy, and it sort of, devolves into a bit of a Santa fight. But it still feels as though it's grounded in reality. And then, with the exception of the postal bomb that actually sort of goes off and has that, the cop who was holding it has that comic, his hair's blown back and it's black and he's got soot all over his face.
Very
which
Home Alone-esque kind of explosion.
Very weird. But then they get into this sort of like fight between Arnold Schwarzenegger dressed up as Turbo Man and Sinbad dressed up as Dementor. And like the fight is like the Turbo Man suit has rocket jetpacks. It has a boomerang which comes back. It has disc throwers. He's flying through the skyscrapers and around and rescuing people as they fall from buildings. And you're like, in what reality does this suit exist? In what reality? And then I think there's a recurring cop character who's like, we could use some more guys like you on the force. I'm like, yeah, if that sort of sci-fi technology existed, you'd probably be much better at law enforcement.
It's really weird because you'd assume someone on a parade float based on a character from a TV show is just going to have like a prop suit. And not to say that the ones on the TVs are real anyway, like it's all special effects and stuff.
They don't have a suit this good for the TV show that they shoot for this character.
Exactly.
Surely the parade float guy's suit would be much, much worse, but it is in fact technologically accurate for something they're using special effects for on the screen.
To use the Iron Man example, it's as if like you watch the Iron Man cartoon and then there's a parade going on where there's a guy dressed up as Iron Man and all his technology works like perfectly and immaculately.
See, you were both kind enough to welcome me in to view it in your elaborate and quite a beautiful screening area.
Well, we didn't welcome you, we bought you.
I did actually have to buy a third seat for the Memorial Theatre this week to fit you in, but let's not get into that.
But we waited until the end to see if there's any post-credit scenes, because maybe we were in the mode of like superhero films, which contractually have to have one of those. But maybe he skipped over it or something, a scene in which a man walks in and kills the person who created all this technology, looks at the camera and is like, you saw nothing. Because like, how do you explain this blip of technological bliss back in whatever 90, whatever it was, and then nothing? Like, where are our spaceships? Where are our boomerangs?
That's the thing.
Our power bangs?
This seems to exist in an alternate Earth where this technology does exist. And I think maybe from that point forward, there were actual superheroes in that version of Earth, and Arnie and Jake Lloyd. And
although in this alternate version of the Earth, I just want to make comment on talking about Ready Player One and how it's pulling upon all these different film franchises. The parade has a bewildering array of people in the parade. It has Gumby. It had Madeline, like the Madeline doll.
Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah.
Crayola crayons as well.
Sure. Just like pretty much, again, parade culture is not a big thing in Australia. I think it is much more so in America. And you just obviously have these people dressed up as characters, but as kids of the 90s, there's like, oh, these are all the characters. There's Leonardo the Ninja Turtle. Just nostalgic to no end.
Which makes me wonder, like, were the filmmakers intelligent enough to get like corporate branding, like sponsorship on this film? To get those
was it even a thing back then?
I don't know.
Yeah, because there's a big sequence where they're running through. You said Mall of America, which I believe
it's over in Minnesota. Yeah, it's massive. It's got its own theme park inside of it,
and they run through like a Lego section of the toy store. Yeah, and I feel as though they just kind of shot it on location, and there just happened to be a Lego thing there. But nowadays, that would be slapped in the face. Lego brand everything. Lego definitely paid us lots of money to have all their toys in there. I'm not sure it was a thing.
And as they pan across, one kid just looks up and goes, "Wow, everything is awesome." Continue with the film.
Well, that's the thing. I'm sure Lego these days would just make their own film.
That's true.
Really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we're at.
And also, like, in every one of these shops where, unfortunately, Turbo Man has been sold out and Chris Parnell laughs at you if you try and purchase one of them, all the other, like, they pan across all these shots of, like, He-Man dolls and all these other ones. Imagine going to those companies and be like, hey, do you want to have your things? Like, why? They come off as worse than Turbo Man, this fictional, although it's not because you're going to make it. Like,
That's fine. It's an alternate Earth. It's fine.
It's definitely timed in a certain time period. It's just whether or not it's in the same dimension is the question. Somehow this technology is just groundbreaking.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think we're glossing over somewhat the fact that it's supposed to be a Christmas film. Like, when we were discussing doing a holiday special this week, obviously this will be released a couple of days before Christmas, I believe. We're looking at sort of, films that are, sort of Christmas themed, and this is one that sort of comes up. There have not been a lot of really good Christmas films to have come out.
You haven't seen The Polar Express? Oh boy, you're missing out.
I really haven't seen The Polar Express.
Daddy's Home 2? What are you talking about?
The Santa Claus 1 and 2 with
this
Tim
is the
Allen.
thing. I think The Santa Claus is actually kind of a good film. Obviously, they've franchised it, but this is, supposed to be somewhat of a family film.
Yeah.
And it's very amoral. It's got beating up of reindeer and Santa Clauses. It has
A creepy neighbor.
creepy sexual harassment neighbor.
Yeah.
It has
3 fight scenes, one including a reindeer, one including a series of Santa Clauses in an underground distribution ring of imported goods in the black market.
It was like a black market, sort of underground, underworld, sort of
assaulting
warehouse.
a radio DJ and threatening to blow them up with postal bombs.
Yep.
It has Stampede. Like, again, there was some jokes there with sort of that Black Friday type Stampede, which I find to be a joke in 96, but I think since 2003 there have been like 7 recorded deaths and 98 serious injuries in those sort of sales.
It's
so
like the footage that they shot of the Stampedes looks almost tame in comparison to what actually happens nowadays.
It's just real life footage they've just cut in. Just gone to a random a Walmart.
No, there wasn't enough. Well, there was actually a taser in the film, but there wasn't enough of it.
Yeah,
during
wielded by
scene.
one of Santa's elves.
That's
See,
right.
What a great community kids film this is.
It really, like, the film is a vehicle for Arnie, though. Like, he is in it. Like, he is 80% of the film is him. And I think you remarked early on in the film as well that he's trying so hard to act.
Actually, I just had a realization. So when you're not seeing Arnie, you're pretty much always seeing Phil Hartman, right?
Yeah.
And all he does, he's like the antagonist of the film. And his role, I mean, sorry to spoil it, but he's just a sleazy single dad, right? Classic sleazy single dad. And even he, who is hitting on women and like undermining marriages and just being real, like just pushing the boundary, he doesn't have a comeuppance either. At the end of the film, he just gets spilled with eggnog, and then non-alcoholic eggnog, mind you, and then runs away. And that's it. There's no repercussions for bad behavior. And like you commented back at that time, divorce was at an all-time high, and you've got someone like, causing these problems. And
the kid, his son, Phil Hartman's son, says to Jake Lloyd, "Oh, things have been so great since my parents got divorced. My dad's so much cooler. He buys me so much more stuff." And I'm like, is this an appropriate joke?
Yeah, and then he turns to the camera, winks, and says, "Phil Hartman lawyers, contact us if you need some help." Like, it really is a commentary on society. Like, there's so many ways in which this is like a reflection of that time period, but at no point does it actually make a comment. It's just like, here's what it was.
That's
but
right,
don't worry, Turbo Man's here to save the day.
It's like a time capsule of the 90s, isn't it? Like, it's and we, as far as I'm aware, we all grew up in the 90s, so this was sort of like our wheelhouse as well. And it's it just like, it is a 90s film. I don't know why I can't, like, it's not like you can, how you can always tell an 80s film, right? Because you look at the technology and it's like, look at those mobile phones, or look at that fashion, or look at that whatever. And then you look at the films at the 90s, you're like, there's nothing there that's really strongly defining it as the 90s, but yet somehow it is the 90s.
Apart from the difficult to recognize Arnold Schwarzenegger wife actress wearing those wonderful vests that only appeared in the 90s, that was the one part where I was like, I remember my mum wearing those.
And also the whole premise of the film, which is just like it would have taken me 10 seconds to buy this on eBay. Or the whole how most of the plots of Seinfeld will be dispelled if they just had mobile phones and they just could call each other.
Like the prevalence of like what are they called? I can't even remember what they're called. Telephone boxes, I guess.
Payphones.
Payphones. That's it, man. This is exactly this. That's like the defining feature, showing like it can't be later than mobile phones,
That's
right?
Yeah. Oh man.
So I think that's probably as much unraveling as we need to do. So what do we reckon? So the public is crying out for a really good holiday film.
Yeah, yeah.
And something that is family friendly,
Feel good.
and has a strong moral. I think one of the things we've pulled away from this is that this does not have a strong moral, and whatever movie film studios does really needs to drive home that this is the moral that we're getting across.
Yeah.
So
Lots of reflection of society, like pointing out some of the societal issues and perhaps doing a better job of like making commentary on it rather than just holding a mirror and then flashing it away to show Arnie's face, which is basically it. And there has to be, I feel like there has to be some kind of, I would like for there to be there's almost a play within a play, right? Like we spend more time at the beginning analyzing Turbo Man.
Yeah.
Perhaps there needs to be some kind of, focus within, like a separate story being told within the.
Well, I have an idea, guys.
Created.
You know how there's a very, very popular IP called KNIG HTS.
Hold it. If this is going to be an idea that we're going to put in the film, do you think it might be worth discussing in the green room?
Oh, good point.
Wait, do I get to go to the green room?
You do get to go to the green room.
Gosh,
I'm going to have to warn you. Block your ears. Hold your eyes closed as tight as possible.
Yep.
And if possible, you need to gently exhale for the next sort of like 2 to 3 seconds, because if you hold it in, the gas will sort of bubble through your blood. So.
Oh wow! Okay, cool. Yeah.
So on the count of 3.
Yep. All right.
1, 2, 3.
Man, we're here.
Oh goodness! I have no idea where we are. But
Well,
wow!
Can you not tell?
No.
What color is enveloping you right
I'd
now?
say it's like an emerald color, a vermilion, perhaps. Some a green.
Correct.
Yeah. I tell you, these verdant light bulbs are not easy to come. Like, yeah, I tried initially just sort of dipping it in like a greenish paint.
Yeah.
But the paint burns off after a while. It's a really nasty smell. I've had to import this custom glass from Azerbaijan, and it's been a nightmare, but it is worth it in the end.
Well, I have my trusty from when I used to work at Motion Picture Inc. I have this flashlight which is red tinted. So with the red and the green, maybe we can get something Christmassy going.
Yeah,
I'm just going to set this up here in the middle of the table, and maybe that'll give us some inspiration.
I have to say, guys, traveling by Audio Sting is becoming a little bit hard on the old organs. Is any of you bleeding from the nose right now?
I thought that was
not from
normal.
the nose. Not from the nose.
My ears.
Okay.
So
here we are.
You were referencing another.
As I was referencing in the incorrect room, I apologize deeply for that. But we have a particular film franchise that might be great as a film within a film, and that film is, of course, KNIG.
Because we haven't marketed those action figures, and they are a fantastic sort of idea behind. I mean, they're guys in sort of power suits. They've got sort of animal type heads. They've got. I'm sure they've got rocket blasters and things like that.
And that's actually one of the things that has really confused me, because for MPI, we had a division of toy distribution.
Yeah.
Like my mom made a lot of toys and we sold them on the corner, and she did a really great job of it. So, I mean, we've got assets we can leverage if we wanted to move into this area.
Here's the thing. When we made KNIG HDS, we devoted one of our sub-basements to all the merchandise, but we never sold any of it. So it's now ready for the universe with a film within a film.
I'm assuming there's like an extra level. You press like numbered -20, and you open up, and there's a giant factory floor on the side. It says Ark of the Covenant, like just sitting there in a warehouse size thing of all the merchandise you've created,
along with more lawyers. That's all
who are also in boxes, just waiting to be unpacked.
We're gonna have to start inventing new numbers at the moment. It's like that combined L and N from 9
from last week.
Niall, that's the one that's the merchandise room. You have to press that button.
Okay, all right. So let's look at it. Should we start with moral first? Is that the way we should go? Do we need to figure out like what the moral of this film is going to be?
Yeah,
and then kind of work backwards from there.
And what is the societal issue? Like what are you going to drag out of 2017 and really derive from that?
Well, okay. So a couple of things going on in the world right now.
Memes.
I know that in America the FCC just took down net neutrality.
Oh, really? Net neutrality's gone?
It's gone. Oh, well, pending a court case, but yeah, for the most part, it's gone. There's that.
So does that mean, hang on, so if net neutrality is gone, does that mean that the oil lines via which data is flowing, there will be some kind of like caps on them or something, or there's different size oil lines?
I don't know what to say. Pay to win is not the right the phrase there, but it's definitely if you pay more, your oil flows faster.
Yeah.
I believe that's
the worry with the whole thing, right? Yeah.
What if, I mean, it might be a bit on the nose, but what about like other issues in society, like a monopoly of digital distribution oligarchies, such as Disney and
I like it.
And Fox.
Like, what if there's some, like, it's happened in the same week. What if there's some kind of correlation there? I'm not saying, that, joining, merging different, movie studios is bad. Like, I think it's the greatest idea, right, guys? I'm so on board with everything that's happened recently. But like, maybe there's something there, right? Is there
So here's the idea then, right? So what if it's like a small movie studio or small whatever, it doesn't have to be a movie studio, it just can be a small like mum and pa production of something, and there's always the big corporate overlords trying to take it over. And the moral of the story can be that work hard and the small guys will always win.
Yeah. Our hero, a previous worker at this small mum and pop store, is now driven to work every day. He's, his corporate lawyers, there's like clocking in and clocking out, and he can't see his family. He or she can't see their family anymore because of this, ridiculous merging going on.
So it could be like, what if this mum and pop operation were making toys for certain film franchises?
Okay. Hang on. So in this world you're creating, KNIGHTS, is a series of toys that haven't existed in the real world yet.
Not yet.
But they do in this.
Yes. And it's based on a very, very popular film franchise.
I'm not sure we make it a popular film franchise yet. I think we do it like that, sort of like A.A. Milne, and these are the stories that mum and pop are telling to their kid as he goes to sleep, and they're creating this world, and they're hand making these toys, and they're selling it. Enter corporate streaming service who wants to sort of turn this very sort of wholesome mum and pop story about these woodland creature animals into these sort of big, corporatized, pay on demand, get your thing faster if you give us more money sort of development.
Oh, I love
because
it.
Toys these days, I don't know if you guys are in with a toy, but my mum knows a lot of stuff about toys. And these days it's all the Bionicles, right? Yeah. It's all the Disney Infinities. It's all you click it in, and you download it and everything.
Click it in and it ties in and you get unlocked digital content.
And imagine the kid getting this toy and plugging in. It's like, sorry, your parents don't pay enough for their data oil. And you're like, oh damn, you can't access this toy. Like there's like a pay to play effectively. But not pay to play like a microtransaction in a game. It's pay to play with your own toys.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. That's a Christmas message for the ages,
right?
Isn't it?
And now you've got shots of people going to like stores to like download these online credits. They're trampling people to get to these pay stations. You've got, it's still Christmas. It's very Christmas oriented, right? It's still, we're talking toys here. We're talking about equality for all toys.
I love the idea that people have to go to a store to buy like data
packets.
So I just imagine them with like big oil cans, like running in, pouring the oil all over the computer, thinking, "Is this how I pay? Is this how this works?"
You gotta dunk your toy into oil first, and you see this kid, and it's a shot of him just like leaning against a windowsill, looking at an empty oil drum, being like, "Mom, are we getting more oil?" "I'm sorry, son, no oil for you this Christmas."
I like it like as a kind of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory kind of thing as well. Like it's a family that lives sort of in a disheveled, ramshackle old place. And like the mum and pa are dressed in kind of shabby clothes, and
they sleep in a bed with 18 other people, head to toe.
Yep. And they've only really got like they open the doors to their pantry, and there's only like a few measly cans of oil in there that they can use for the next couple of days, and they've got to ration it and make sure that they've got enough for their entire family.
But then, like, I also imagine that the corporate toys, and they've obviously stolen the idea of KNIGHTS, and taken these wood car features. But like the corporate toys, when you dunk them in the oil, like consumes the oil. It drinks it up and eats it, and maybe it like glows a little bit and lights up and says its catchphrase and or whatever. But like it's almost like now you need to buy more oil because your toys are eating the oil, and the toys don't work without the oil. And there's this sort of vicious cycle, and all the money's feeding to the top.
How dare that corporate evil overlord manufacture toys like that? Yeah,
and not only is it like these fancy toys are taking from the oil pool, but this mum and pop has been embroiled into this, corporation life or whatever. Now it's taking from them as well. They can't be with their family, like they can't provide, and there's like a parallelism there between the toys and the people, and
So I mean, that's the great world that we've built, and this is the great moral. What's the ending then? Like, how do you overcome corporate? Obviously, we live in a world where it's just corporations are just going from strength to strength, acquiring other corporations, getting more money, making you pay for your internet. What's the thing that happens in our world that, or do we lean into it and we go, like at the end, it's just like, I don't know, It's a Wonderful Life ends well, right? It doesn't just say,
no, it
and
doesn't.
the world's
jumps.
horrible, the world's horrible, and there's nothing you can do about it. Good luck, kids. Like, I mean,
and then it comes up with A Wonderful Life, and it scratches out wonderful and right shit.
it's a life, yeah.
I like the idea. So my thing would be that there's a few films that have, I'm pretty sure they're 90s films as well, where the evil Baron Overlord or whoever comes to their senses. Like, they're shown something and they're so blown away by what they see that they change their tune. Pretty sure like the Jetsons movie did that at some point. Where
The Jetsons movie is A Christmas Carol, though, isn't it? Or I'm just thinking of the Jetsons do A Christmas Carol.
You could be thinking that. Where, like, I think they were threatening to destroy some planet and it was inhabited by all these little creatures, and then the guy that wanted to destroy the planet actually sees all these creatures and is like, oh no, I can't do it, therefore the end.
Yeah, so
do it.
maybe you've got to take it down from the top, right? And then that spills down into like Joy. He's like throwing toys out to all the workers, and there's like a beautiful moment where something has changed significantly as a result.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it's like you're looking at a kind of Orson Welles kind of character, the controller, looking down at the factory with whips and stuff, and by the end of it, he's been taught the message. It's almost you're wrapping into this story then. The Ghosts of Christmas, and like it's Ebenezer Scrooge, effectively.
I think what we've done here is we've got Citizen Kane, A Christmas Carol, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in the one film, mixed in with KNIG
HDS.
Yeah.
I cannot think of a better box office winner than that, honestly. How many great films have we just referenced?
True.
Okay. Right.
So the other thing here is, obviously we're trying to make, I mean, not necessarily a Christmas film, it's a holiday sort of special film. But then obviously if you reference Christmas, it's very sort of Christian-centric, which, may not be the most sort of politically correct thing. There's a lot of other sort of religions that have festivals this time of year. Do we make a theme of it, or we just say, I mean, really the only thing that's universal about this time of year is it's the midpoint of a season, whether it's your summer solstice or winter solstice. I don't really know how it works on the equator. Sure, it's a change from the wet season to the monsoon.
A gopher comes out of the ground and flips a coin, and whichever one it lands, they do that for Christmas.
Yeah, so it's sort of like, happy mid-season Christmas. No, I can't use the word Christmas. Sorry,
holiday.
Holiday
period.
Yuletide.
Is Yule? What's it?
I don't know. I'm so sorry. Look, and maybe that's even a commentary, right? Like, as well. Like, I just want to throw more and more social commentary. Like, the world is becoming more atheist. Like, is that a thing as well?
Yeah.
Like, it's not the Christmas spirit anymore. It's just, you've got to search within. This
Happy
is the
holidays.
Yeah, right.
On the war on Christmas.
You know how in a lot of these holiday films, there's like an opening shot. Usually the American ones, there's an opening shot of someone walking down a street and it's all snowing.
Yeah.
People walking past and
the
saying,
camera zooms
Merry
in,
Christmas, Happy Christmas. Like, we should do that, but every single person that walks by says a different holiday.
Yeah, that's true. That's not too bad. And as well, like, I think they have to walk through different seasons as well. So, like, the first block, it's snowing. Because the one thing about growing up in Australia is you watch these Christmas movies, it's always snowing in America, and that's just, like, it's like 40 degrees Celsius here, and it's just hot. Like, you can't walk on the concrete because your skin literally sort of like melts to how hot the pavement is.
Yeah.
It's a completely different experience. So to make it, obviously, every sort of seasonal greeting that you can have, but every block is also like, it might be monsoonal. It's like, it's the monsoon season in some equatorial countries. So like,
and this is one of the areas that Jingle All the Way, it was a very like middle class white America story. And even at one point there was a man who working at a diner who was the sage old black dude who was like giving advice. I feel like we need to be as average as possible, right? It needs to be average. Like, we pick a filming location or a set, like where to set it, where the weather changes on a dime. It's snowing, and then suddenly it's we have a family who are from all different backgrounds. Like, Christmas is for everyone, right? Stop being so single minded with these kind of even recent. What's the best recent Christmas story? I reckon.
Elf.
Elf.
Elf's a good one. I actually quite enjoy Elf.
But again, it's so like, it's a white family doing a middle class thing. Let's diverse.
in
Like,
New York, where it snows, and
So
sure.
we just get everyone and every.
so it's set in Singapore, and
I did actually grow up in Singapore as well for a little
Oh,
bit,
there we
so
go.
Christmas in Singapore works quite well for me.
There we go.
great. Okay,
Go
good.
back home. Brilliant. All right. Well, in that case, if it's going to be this diverse casting, this
Yeah.
is
Well,
all.
I mean, we haven't really nutted down exactly who our characters are.
No. You launch into casting first, and then backtrack.
No,
a
that's the
little.
thing. Like, I'm pretty sure, like with Arnie, they didn't say, "Ooh, who would be the right person for this film?"
It's
No,
true.
they said, "We need Arnie for a Christmas film. We'll figure out the rest of it."
He looks like
after."
an action hero. Let's
Yeah.
just make it about
Well,
an
okay,
action
so
hero.
it's funny that you bring up KNIGHTS, and I'm because it's funny because back in that film, I remember when you guys cast the winner of the MMA competition specifically. So
Yes,
I
that's
mean,
right.
you've already got a little element of like,
That's true.
fighters turned actors.
Yeah.
Will you have to go and cast like Jake Johnson and everyone again?
I
for
think,
this?
I mean, they'll be definitely will record some extra dialogue because
Yeah.
their action figures will have their voice. So Anna Kendrick
Yeah.
and John Boyega and I think Jake Johnson was
Jake
in
Johnson
it.
was in
Yeah,
there too,
MMA
and
fighter.
was Dwayne the Rock Johnson in that?
I don't think so. I think we
No?
went with the
We went with the MMA.
the
John
battle
Boyega.
royale. I think
Yeah,
John
John
Boyega
Boyega was
and
in it.
Anna Kendrick and those guys were in there, and whoever the fifth or fourth one happened to be. Sure,
The
That could be a
you know
voice
what
as well.
that it may have come that person is the booster of KNIGHTS.
yes, the fluorescent pink saber-tooth tiger type character. I think we had an Arctic fox in there or a giant grizzly bear.
You're gonna have to go back and look at which one was the saber tooth or whatever, and that is the new booster.
Yeah. Well, we'll need them back anyway. Because, like, in Jingle All the Way, they actually show a bit of the TV show. Of
That's
Exactly.
how the
Jingle.
film starts, and I'd seen I'd never seen Jingle All the Way before, and so when it started with this, I was like, "Whoa, this is not the film I thought it was going to be." As like a superhero zooming around, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a great movie." Turns out it was a play within a play. So, but is that how you start this film
Yeah,
as well?
we'll have to. So we'll have to get everyone back to record that bit. We won't use archival footage because we're premium filmmakers now. We own an extra studio, so we'll farm that out. Second unit, we'll do it. That'll be your job, Kieran.
Oh wow, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll get straight on that.
Yeah, great.
I'll organize another fighting competition, and whoever wins this one will be the new voice actor. Okay, so but then you're right. We need to figure out who these characters are.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of established that there's a mum and pa, and that there's a kid, and then there's also 18 other people. In
That's cool. I think the mum and pa are a good start off point, like to cast people in those roles. I think there's always an opportunity to have sort of a good sort of who's the in Spider-Man, Uncle Ben and Aunt
May?
Peru.
May.
They've obviously been through some iterations of like Martin Sheen and
and dude who played it in the Tobey Maguire
yeah,
films.
sure. But like, there's Marissa Tomei, sure. But like they have, there's that sagely sort of old elderly advice sort of
Yeah,
people.
but Marissa Tomei wasn't. Maybe it's a mum
Yeah.
and pop. Maybe you go a bit younger.
Olivia Wilde. Whoa, whatever. Doesn't matter.
One actress that I had in mind. We talked briefly about another film franchise before we started recording. But an actress I feel like who could maybe use with this, and since you already have John Boyega, Gwendolyn Christie, maybe like as a mum character. What do you think?
I can see her
So
in
you
that.
said the words Gwendolyn Christie, and a picture of her face did not pop into my brain. I'm just like scanning through like my database. What's she from? Who's she play?
You've never seen Captain Phasma?
Oh, right, from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, did not know that was the actress's name, but yeah, sure. She's not.
You weren't wowed by Captain Phasma's very important role in recent films owned by the Disney Fox Corporation?
I believe we spoke last week about the Death Cure, the third Maze Runner thing, where
yeah.
people who have just sort of been killed off on Game of Thrones just can like apparently walk across to the Maze Runner studios where they're making films. I believe she's still alive in that, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah,
But
sure,
by the time we...
exactly, we just camp outside the Game of Thrones studio gates, and as the characters walk off as they're killed off, we'll just say, sign a contract, we can come over with us.
No, what we'll do is, usually there's like a passageway to go from the Game of Thrones studios to the Maze Runner studios, so we'll need to build a fake passageway that just says, Maze Runner, this way, and we'll just direct them into our like
So there goes
catering van.
50% of our effects budget for this film is
Yeah,
going into building a tunnel.
Building a tunnel from the Game of Thrones studios so we can siphon off all their characters that are getting
Okay,
killed.
so we basically have an actor pool to work from now.
Exactly. What's that, Kit Harington?
Yeah.
Coming this way.
He's still
Amelia
alive, isn't
Clark.
he?
Yeah,
On
sure.
the-
I mean, it's going to be the last season. Surely,
Okay.
like most of them are going to.
Probably.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
yeah.
so if you're gonna have like a kid character who's like the child of this mum and pop store, then why not get what's her name, Mormont, whatever
the young lady Mormont.
young lady Mormont, right?
Yeah, she's really good.
She's really good, and she has similar good acting skills to whatever Anakin Skywalker's actor's name was.
yes.
Jake Lloyd.
That's it.
Okay, I don't know. I don't watch
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
I realize I've said let's go diverse and picked 2 white ladies, but that's cool.
When you've like the cast of the northern type characters in
Yeah,
Game of
yeah,
Thrones
yeah,
are very white anyway.
that's fine. Well, I mean, do we
What about
want?
Pedro Pascal then? Like bring him in. His
Sure.
character is dead in Game of Thrones.
Did he play? I don't take unless it's Isaac Hampstead Wright because like he's got my first name and I know who he plays. I really don't take
Other
that much
people
of this.
you're fans of: Isaac Asimov, Isaac Newton.
Oscar Isaac.
It's true. Cast them all.
He was the guy whose eyes get punched out.
Oh right, yes, the
Sand Snake or whatever his
yeah.
name was.
This is we're getting far
Sure,
too
I
Game
have
of Thrones.
no
AJ
idea.
is not a Game of Thrones person,
No.
so maybe we just we'll take those guys and then
we'll close the tunnel off.
Yeah, we'll pick.
There's the other 50%
we'll
is-
drive to another TV studio of a show that AJ actually watches.
Yep. What do I watch? I'm not watching anything right
That's all right.
now.
30 Rock.
Yeah,
it's
great.
like we're not even shooting this anymore.
No.
What are we doing outside Tina Fey's house? And then we just like put a bag over her head and drag her into the van.
Well,
Sure.
she's doing the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah,
Or do we
sure.
just like actually go to 30 Rock and siphon off Saturday Night Live
I mean,
people?
Chris Parnell was in Jingle All the Way
Yeah.
2 years before he was cast
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on SNL. So sure,
And a bunch of like long time SNL folk have just left, right? Like was it Cecil? Was it Cecil? No.
I haven't actually watched SNL for about 5 years.
Okay.
And I turned on an episode the other day. I'm like, I know none of you. Where's Seth Meyers and Andy Samberg and Bill Hader and Will Forte and Amy
I think,
Poehler?
yeah, Bobby Moynihan is Moynihan or what his name is. I think he's
that's
leading
the
as
one
well.
I'm thinking of.
30-year-old character. I'm just going to throw it out there. Tracy Morgan. Now, what if he was the big
Yes.
controller, right?
Oh,
and he has
yeah.
to learn the spirit of Christmas.
No, the spirit of holidays.
Sorry,
thank you
sorry,
very much.
The spirit of
non-denominational time off time.
yeah,
middle of the season.
yeah, mid-seasonal holiday.
What is it in like all fantasy worlds? It's called like midwinter or winter
Yeah.
mass or
Yeah.
whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, so he's going to be
But
the
again, midwinter does not it excludes the entire southern hemisphere, which we can't
it's
do.
called mid-season.
yeah, it's like mid.
mid-season.
The true meaning of mid-season. I finally understand it.
All right, so he's going to be.
It
the-
ironically is also middle of the season for KNIGH. HDS, sorry, I said that wrong. But
Yeah.
it's the middle of their season of the TV show.
Exactly.
And in
Yeah.
their downtime, the actors get to do just some extra lines for this
Great,
cutaway.
Yeah,
Perfect.
it's on hiatus. They don't know if it's going to be picked up.
Yeah.
So Anna Kendrick and John Boyega are like, they're sort of like hanging outside the
They've
studio.
got nothing else going on at the
Exactly,
moment. There's
that-
no Pitch Perfect 3. There's no Star Wars.
We've
They're just-
stashed them in the basement, to be perfectly
They're
honest.
hidden with other merchandise.
With the other lawyers in
I mean,
boxes.
they're probably in the sub basement N/L making the toys for us at the moment. So.
They're probably involved in the creation of Mephistoba, our
Yeah.
digital distribution
Yeah.
platform. We're just not aware of it.
That's what to do. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
See,
so-
you've only been here for a day and you get it right. He's been here for months. So
I've been studying up.
Hey,
he puts
I'm-
bees in there.
I'm a busy executive, okay? I don't have time for this. That's why I pass it on to not support. Well, you're
What?
I'm not
Guys? What?
sure.
I
we
mean,
paid, so
It's going to be a bit of a social network type situation where
My mum said this would happen.
I mean, you've got stock options now and they're worth something. If we expand, we have the option of giving you more of those stock options
Yeah.
to keep its value
Absolutely.
or not. So
no, this is going to be a long time running collaboration.
I
think.
absolutely think so. I mean, if anything with this film, this mid-seasonal holiday spirit of
Giving and sharing. And,
spirit of neutrality. Is that
yeah,
like,
I love it. Yeah, the spirit
Yeah,
of
at the end of
neutrality.
the movie, he's just look at the camera and be like, well, I guess.
So again, we didn't discuss at the end of Jingle All the Way is so you got your whatever your son wanted for Christmas, and the wife goes, and what did you get from me? And Arnie literally turns to the camera, it whip zooms in on him on his face like, oh, I forgot your present too, and that's like legitimately the end of the film.
Yeah, he's learnt nothing.
He has learned absolutely nothing.
But that can't happen in our one.
It's not going to happen.
Tracy Morgan has to look at the camera. It dolly zooms into his face, and he says quite clearly, there is meaning in mid-season, and that's the end. Like, the opposite.
And then he winks, and then the camera like shrinks down to a small iris, like Warner Brothers style, and then it disappears, and then the end credits roll.
Yeah.
And what's our post-credit sequence?
Well, if it's anything like Jingle All the Ways, which is just the name of an actor that they forgot to put on the credits, well,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I actually really like your like sort of a Nick Fury type eye-patched character comes in and like steals the technology that we've been using on the KNI GHTS suits to form their own team of actual superheroes.
I've heard of your previous thing where you guys get yourselves in the movies.
We have not done that for a really long time.
Well, what if us three as friends
corpses.
and forever friends come in at the end and just are sweeping up the factory, and we're just like, well, head to stores now to buy your limited edition copies of K.
So it should just be an ad. We should just put an ad at the end,
and it's not included. And in store, Well, I mean, we get to draw a mini Mormon to say that, pop up and say that, and then it zooms into her eye as well.
Well, I think for that to happen, I mean, we've traditionally always been dead in those cameos as well.
Yeah,
so
because we use the time traveling technology and we can only bring our bones back, or potentially our petrified remains, which have turned into carbon chains of oil.
Well, I'll sweep up your dead bodies.
Exactly.
How about that, guys?
That's not too bad because we don't need you to be dead in the film. You can actually make real, live action
that's fine.
cameos. So.
That could be your we'll mix you in there.
It'll be my cameo, guys. Can I just point out one last thing? We've spent about 4 seconds thinking about the plot of this film. What is the plot of KNITHDS? Because this is what it's going to open with. This is
there needs to be an adventure. Well, I mean, we don't want to adapt the film as such. We can just do we need to make a separate episode for it? So in the film, it
has to link back to the toy thing, right? Of the oil or whatever.
Yeah, I'm I'm sure oil pipeline is a toy, right? And you buy lots of segments of it, kind of like slot
collect them
cars.
all, build your own sewerage empire.
Yeah. Have you got? My dad bought me 10 straight sections. Yeah, I've got an S-bend curve.
What? Maybe in the segment at the beginning, that's where they learn that KNIGHTS learn that if they are covered in oil, they do light up, and like all the special features of the toys, and it's like you're shown in that these are the features you will be getting from your purchases.
That's foreshadowing, or actually decent storytelling. Nice work.
All right, now we've cast one actor. We do need to cast our mum and pa at the very least before we finish up. So we know that Jingle All the Way was a vehicle for Arnie. I mean, do we need to also go down the same road and get
Ronda Rousey?
Well, I was going to go Lou Ferrigno, but sure.
I think his time is
Is Lou Ferrigno still alive?
I don't know.
Wasn't he replaced as a voice actor in one of them? Like he only did some of the lines in the second Hulk movie?
Because then he died? No, he's still alive.
I think he's still alive.
I'm pretty sure he's still alive.
I'm not really sure.
Sorry, Lou.
That's all right. We have time traveling technology anyway.
Exactly.
So we just go get him. Should we get him in like his peak Hulk days as well?
I mean, because the reason I bring it up is because in Pumping Iron, which is the like documentary of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm fairly sure Lou Ferrigno finishes second to Arnold Schwarzenegger in like 3 consecutive Mr. Universe competitions. So like, it's like this time he can also like. He was probably second in line to play Jingle All the Way 21 years ago.
You can just imagine him waiting in the casting room as they say he didn't get it, and he pulls out his fists and he's slamming them down on the table. Well, it's sobering time, and he just starts crying.
Well, now we can give him the opportunity he's always wanted, because he is still alive, folks. I have just checked. He is still alive. He's 66 years old, and for some reason, in the Wikipedia photo of him, he kind of looks like Steve Martin with black hair. It's really weird.
Maybe instead, like if he's not available, we just put Steve Martin on like a massive gains routine, gym every day, protein powder, and just bulk him up, and we can get like a massively cut Steve Martin to come into play.
For a reason that is not explained in all scenes of the movie, he has a banjo. Like,
weren't we supposed to make this a diverse film? So far, we've cast Gwendolyn Christie, Steve Martin, and Tracy Morgan, and that's it.
Oh,
Okay, we can
enough.
do more.
Oh, and us as well. We're pretty diverse.
I mean, let's go. If we're going to go every culture, let's just pick sort of like every continent. We'll just get one of the emperor penguins from March of the Penguins from Antarctica. Done. So we just need an Australian.
Is Skippy still alive?
Oh, no, I mean, don't need animals so much. Just who's an Australian actor that we haven't
Paul
cast?
Hogan.
Paul Hogan. I'm sure he's still doing things, and I'm sure our international. He's Crocodile Dundee, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say Crocodile Hunter Steve Irwin. Definitely, probably not going to be able to cast him.
No.
But Crocodile Dundee is still kicking about.
Yep.
Asia, any Asian actors or actresses that...
Asia is quite large, I'd say.
I mean, I'm just saying, is star power. You've got your Jet Li.
Yep.
I'm sure,
if it's set in Singapore, maybe you get a local Singaporean. Did I get that right?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Actor or actress to be part of it.
Yep.
Can you name one, Isaac?
Nicholas Yee. Hang on. There was a Singaporean sitcom called Under One Roof. Back in 1995, and I'm just trying to remember the theme song. Tana Tech, Nicholas Yee is Ronnie, Andrew Lee is Paul, and Go Chick Don is something. So let's go Nicholas Yee, because I'm fairly sure he exists as a person, possibly. Maybe I've butchered the name, but sure, Singaporean actor.
Can I also say, top credit to that Singaporean production team for calling the show the exact same thing as the amount of sets they have as well.
I was going to say, it sounds like a good Christmas movie name as well. Under One Roof, two companies being brought, a family under one roof.
So if we buy that Singaporean studio just to get the naming rights, we won't actually adapt Under One Roof. We'll just use the name. You know how some companies have to do that when they've named a film something and they realize, it's the name of some product in some weird country somewhere, and then we have to buy them out so we can use it. That's what we'll have to do.
Are you suggesting that the film, our mid-seasonal Christmas spirit film, is called Under One Roof?
Why not?
In parentheses, a KNIGHTS adventure.
And then in double parentheses, not the 1995 Singaporean sitcom of the same name.
And then
in third level, but it still features Nicholas Yee.
And then in fourth level, it needs to say a mid-season tale, mid-season fable.
Yeah, sure. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Can't wait till next week when we have to rename, retell the name of that. Oh.
And guys, how much of the budget is going to go towards actually creating a real life KNIGHTS creature that is the end of the film? It launches into battle and and actually shoots data out of its its paws.
I mean, because Movie Film Studios workshop practical. We've it's been quite obvious for a long time that moving into genetic engineering is actually a cheaper way than doing it digitally. So, I mean, we've got a couple of sort of hybrid octopus monsters that we've been working on. There's that half man, half bull.
Yep.
We didn't get the halves around the right way, and it looks a little bit weird.
It's just two sets of legs. One's a bull's legs, one's a man's legs.
And then, sort of
fused together.
But, I mean, we're working on it, and absolutely, I think by the time we get this into production, we can have some sort of oil monster hybrid sort of thing, and we don't even need to do digital effects.
Great. Because it's always great when you do
can
stuff
genetically imbue it with the ability to dig tunnels, then that solves our first issue of getting the actors
drive minivans. So absolutely.
All right, great. Well, I think that's a wrap on what was the name of it?
Under One Roof.
Under One Roof.
Parenthesis.
Not the type.
No, that was second parenthesis. I don't remember what first parenthesis was.
It was under parenthesis, not the 1992 show.
1995 sitcom of the same name.
Yeah, but under one parenthesis, and then but it still stars Nicholas Yee.
Yeah. And then the fourth one is a mid-season fable.
The first one was a KNIGHTS adventure.
That's right. Yeah.
Not the 1990 whatever thing, but still stars Nicholas Yee. A mid-season fable.
Yeah, I'm so glad that is not at all confusing. So,
great. That is indeed a wrap.
That is. Any housekeeping from this week in the world of our social media?
Always housekeeping. We have a website, moviefilmstudios.net, where you can find all of our previous episodes and also some lovely, pretty pictures of us and maybe Kieran. Who knows?
What? I
mean,
my mum's going to be so proud. And I'm going to be in a cameo in the film. Oh, boy. It is a great mid-season miracle for me.
You stick with us, buddy. We'll take you places.
I can't wait to do this in the future with you guys.
Neither can we. We are on Facebook, Movie Film Studios on Facebook. We are at Movie Film Studio on Twitter.
Oh, because I went to Movie Film Studios on Twitter and it didn't take me. Do you not have a? Is it different?
It's different.
You haven't mentioned that yet on the podcast or
No,
anything.
because the S is premium.
Yeah.
You got to pay for it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
We didn't
exactly.
pay for it 'cause we're opposed. We're on iTunes. We're on wherever you get podcasts on Android. I have no idea.
Every good podcasting platform.
Every good, even the bad ones too. We're on the bad ones. We're
Are you
on
guys hosting the
truly
podcast
awful ones.
on Mufasa Woodada yet?
It's actually a video only platform, which is really weird.
Yeah.
We actually have some complaints where people are like they expected to be able to listen to the movies as well as watching them. Not the case at the moment.
No.
So soon, one day, they tell us that audio technology is all the rage, and eventually we'll sort of come to the forefront. We're not sold on it yet.
No,
so.
not yet. When they do 4K audio, then we'll be on board. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah. So I suppose all that remains is to obviously thank Kieran for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for listening. This week I've been Isaac.
And I've been AJ.
I've been Kieran.
Roll credits.
March winds and April